kind of turn different directions.
Well, we'll do
So
that.
you just, it's one packet per person. I got about 8 different packets.
Oh, it's collated.
Collated. It is collated. I try to be efficient here. Collation.
Okay.
You got it? Yeah.
Well, we'll pass this out.
Right, just grab one and pass it on.
Okay, well, why don't you start? Name and address for the record, please.
Okay, good evening, esteemed members of the Board of BoA Finance Committee. My name is Alan McCollum. I'm the Director of Whaley Avenue Special Service District, 347 Whaley Avenue, here in this great city of New England.
Okay.
I'm here for you today. I missed the vacation is work. But I wanted to present to you our budget for the Whaley Avenue Special Service District. What we are actually, the treasurer has prepared these documents for you today to take a look at. It shows you what our current budget adjustment is for 24, 25, and then we go into what the proposed annual budget is for 25, 26. And there's a spreadsheet breakdown on the last actual sheet. What we actually are proposing is to remain with the same mill that we always have of 2.340. We don't feel that there's a need for an increase currently in the district. We kind of want to not impose that on the owners of the district. We've been able to manage the finances pretty well, trying to get as much done as possible. I'm glad to say that the web team has joined us. They actually have purchased a truck, like downtown, to carry the trash around and, help us with watering flowers and things of that nature, where our worker was doing this manually. So this is a great help from the web team. We're really happy that they, got involved with us and collaborated with Whaley. For too often it was kind of separate, them and us, but now it's a collaboration. So we don't really, like I said, feel that we need to increase it at this particular time. We have some plans for it. We do have some funds that we're going to apply to. We're trying to do lighting on Whaley Avenue. We talked to a few other lighting companies to see what that looks like, maybe lighting up the trees, pole lighting. Lighting's always been an issue on Whaley Avenue. As you might know, you go in at nighttime, it's completely dark, people step off the curb. In the past, there's been a number of fatalities on Whaley Avenue. We're really trying to address and rectify that issue. Everybody needs to be safe. We're looking at the security issues. So we got a big plan in the collaboration of people to try to bring a different look to Whaley Avenue, in addition to the new construction that's going to go on Whaley Avenue. So we're really working with Malachi on that as well. And again, we don't feel there's a reason to impose an additional levy on the taxpayers of that district at this particular time. And I'm here to ask for your support in that, and that you approve that for Whaley Avenue.
Thank you very much. Before I turn it over to my colleagues for questions, you had a stakeholder meeting where a vote was taken to approve the current, to stick with the same mill.
Yes, we did. I apologize for not mentioning that earlier, but we did have our annual meeting at the Marriott, which we do every year, and it was unanimously approved that we keep the same mill rate for the district.
Thank you. Appreciate that. We will now open up the queue for questions from colleagues from the director of the Whaley Avenue Special Services District. Any questions from colleagues? Alder Furlong. And I think after that, over.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Carl typically wouldn't. We did get a report from Economic Development of all the vacancies throughout the corridor. I just don't remember the vacancy percentage for this district. Is it high? Is it?
The vacancy for commercial?
Yes.
Yeah. No, actually, there's very few vacancies. There's not a lot of, we're trying to bring in a number of different types of businesses, more of this sit-down restaurant businesses, maybe some retail. As you know, some of the vacancies increased with Walgreens leaving.
That's a big one.
Yeah, that's a big one. So we're trying to find someone to fill that vacancy. Walgreens still has a lease on that, and they're still paying the rent on that. So we're trying to navigate how to make that work with Walgreens. There's a few other small shops in the area that's available, but that is our biggest vacancy currently is Walgreens leaving.
And I think that the district will appreciate the possibility of this percentage of the mill rate staying the same. Since you're also dealing with some nuisance businesses in the area, they were hoping that over this next course, there'll be some resolution to those that are just causing some disruption in your district in that area. So I wanted to say that because we do note it.
Okay. Yeah, well, I've brought it to
Yep.
your attention. At one time, you were there to Gary Alderman Hogan's attention, so he's working collectively with us now to address those particular issues. Sam's Club Sam's store on the corner of Sherman Avenue is one of those nuisance businesses that's there. You're trying to rectify that. I think they're open 24 hours, so we're trying to get that, changed as well. We got, as you know, we got rid of one of the package stores, so that minimized, we had like 3 package stores in less than a mile radius of that, so we got rid of one, but it was replaced with a smoke shop. Not a fair trade, but
My favorite thing. Yeah,
smoke
so I
shop.
wanted to bring that up because let you know that we haven't forgotten that, and we heard that last time, and we wish you much success as you continue to lead.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we're trying to incorporate those shops because they're saying that, that it's not their fault of what happens. It's just people hanging out in the district with nowhere to hang. I think it's kind of a catch-22 because the type of business it is that are nuisance businesses draw those type of people to the community. So they're talking about trying to make a living, and this is what they do, but this is what comes. So it's kind of a hard juggle to see how we can rectify that, but we're definitely trying to bring them into all of our meetings, seeing how we can collectively come up with ideas to help them. And we definitely need the city's, help and help rectify that issue. So we look forward to working collectively with the city.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Alder. Further colleagues want to ask questions of our Director of Whaley Avenue Special Services District. Seeing none, we're going to move to the next item on our agenda. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you for your work. We'll now invite forward our friends from the Office of Management, Budget, and Grants for the next 2 items, the final workshop and also recommended changes that we may consider as a technical amendment on Thursday. So we'll just do the first one and slide right into the second.
Okay. Shannon Q, 295 Warwick Road, Waterbury, Connecticut.
Ron Gizzi, 219 Rainbow Terrace, Hampton.
And as I said before, you've already touched upon this item C during the budget overview, but I wanted to be extra thorough and just make sure that you explained it one more time so that we can cross it off the list of items that have been workshopped.
Okay, and C is the ARPA.
Is the ARPA reality?
Yes, so we've been working a lot on ARPA the past week or so because we have to do our quarterly reports, but this what we are recommending is that we use some of the ARPA funds that were put into the FY 2025 budget as revenue replacement. We do not believe that we will be using them to close out the year. We do believe it will go go unused. And based on that, our recommendation is to use the 3.9 million out of the $6 million that is in the budget, 2 million of it for police overtime, and that's consistent with what we've done in the FY 25 budget. So it would be the same thing for FY 26. 400,000 for fire overtime, and then 1.5 million for literacy and math tutoring. And we believe that this is allowable under ARPA rules because these are already approved uses of ARPA funds. And I know Ron is on the phone quite often with our consultants to talk about the rules, which do shift a little bit from time to time. So Ron is really abreast of that. So Ron, if you wanted to highlight some of the rules.
So again, like we discussed before, we could shift ARPA funds, but it has to be an existing project now. So that's what we're concentrating on with these 3 projects because they were existing. The police overtime and the fire overtime, those really had a direct effect on the GF budget by reducing it by the 2.4 million. The math and literacy tutoring program, there was a lot of testimony in support of those. That is an existing project right now. That expires in August 2025, I believe is the date. They spent most of the money. It was originally $3 million for 2 years. There's close to 400,000 left in there. So this 1.5 will allow us to extend that program.
Great. Thank you for that concise presentation. And like I said, we heard this explanation during the budget overview, but I wanted to make sure it got workshopped since it was a separately communicated item as part of our budget package. Any questions from colleagues on this item? Alder Festa.
Mr. Chair, I'm not sure that our office will be able to answer my questions because there's no one here from the group to probably answer, but maybe through you, we can find out how the math and literacy tutoring has compared to the Saturday academies that used to exist. Because we got rid of the Saturday academies and then this took over. So it'd be interesting to learn why they got rid of the Saturday academies and how that compares to the math and literacy tutoring, if it does.
Okay.
That makes sense?
I think I know what you're asking, Alder Festa, and I'm happy to look into it. I guess the question I would have for you is, does the answer to that question affect your position of whether or not we should reallocate the funds in this direction?
No, it will just make us prepared for what follows when these funds end.
Because that affects how quickly we need the information because we deliver it on Thursday. So it sounds like that's a follow-up that could take a little bit longer.
Yeah, so I'm okay with this
So
as
noted.
it stands.
So noted.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Anything else?
No, just curious.
Thank you, Alder Festa. Further questions from colleagues on this item? Seeing none, let's move now into the recommended changes and corrections. And I think you may have some paper.
I do. It's very small, and we're going to send a final version tomorrow, or I think by tomorrow. We're doing a fine review of it, really detailed, because we don't want to come back to it anymore. So this is, and they're very small, and we will send you the Excel file so you can go into great detail. Today I was
This
planning.
is like the smallest font that
I know.
know.
I was planning to keep it at a high level so that we could give you the exact numbers and make sure it's gone through a proper review, so we do not come back with any issues at all. That is our concern, that we do it once. And so I'm gonna speak to it, I'll speak to it. It was the only way I could get it to fit on the page. But I will start at the top. So in terms of the revenue, we know that the assessor did provide testimony that the state did adjust how we appraise motor vehicles. And so under the motor vehicles, I'm going to talk to this is all tax revenue.
Can I interrupt you for just a second?
Yes.
I think what you're gonna go over with us is corrections on the revenue side
Yes,
and corrections on the expenditure
that
side.
is correct.
So you're starting with the revenue side,
Yes,
and that's the top portion
that is correct.
before the big underline about an
Yes.
inch down.
Yes,
So the first inch or so of barely readable
yes,
text is what you're gonna talk about
yes,
first.
it is.
Okay.
With a copy coming for your review as soon as it goes through our quality controls. Okay, so the first thing I'd like to point out is that the total revenue change, I'll start there, is it's coming in $1.4 million less than what was in the mayor's budget, and I will walk through why. So there was an adjustment to the appraisals when we looked at the grand list. And one of those was the motor vehicles, and we did talk to the assessor did speak about this, where they did have to adjust the motor vehicles assessment down. And so that adjustment brought the tax revenue down by about $1.1 million. There was also an adjustment to the real estate tax, where the elderly deductions was significantly understated. So we made that adjustment as well. And so between those two adjustments, those were the major adjustments here, that was about $2.5 million. Now, to make up for that, without touching the millage rate, what we did in the office was we reviewed all of the revenues over the past 5 years, and we looked for trends, and we looked for revenues that had consistently exceeded the budgeted estimates. And so we came up with some increases to put those revenues closer to trend. And that would make up for the difference in the real estate taxes and the motor vehicle taxes. So what we looked at was current interest had been about 125% of budget over 5 years. So we bumped that number up by about $400,000 to meet trend. We did the same thing for supplemental. It had been coming in about 140% of budget over several years, so we bumped that up closer to trend to about, we had about 160,000. We did the same for delinquent real estate taxes, which we bumped up to, and I'll have the exact numbers when I share the spreadsheet with you digitally so you can see it all. So we bumped that up to trend, telecommunication property taxes as well, real estate conveyance taxes, and controller's miscellaneous revenue. And so all of those adjustments and just bringing those numbers up to trend made up for the shortfall in the real estate and the motor vehicles taxes. And then we did make a net zero adjustment where we received about $427,000 in extra town aid for roads from the state of Connecticut. And then based on our conversations with the transportation and parking, we took that exact amount that we received in extra state aid and we reduced the parking tax revenue about the same amount because based on their projections, they thought that our estimate in the budget was too robust. So we made that offset. And then finally, all of it was net neutral. We were at zero until that point. And then the state, we had taken 1% increase in educational cost sharing. The state had increased our funding by 1%, and so across the board, we took a 1% increase. We later learned that the extra money would go into the alliance funding, which is a source that goes directly to the school district and not through the general fund. So that was the last adjustment we made, and that's essentially what drove the $1.4 million reduction in revenues. Now, if you look at the expenditures, so the expenditures have quite a few calculation errors. This is the bottom section, much larger section, unfortunately. But So what happened, I will explain essentially most of them, and there's quite a few where it says calculation error, formula break, and that makes up quite a bit of it. Some of it were salary adjustments, and I could go through those. So essentially what happened is departments put in their full request for positions. And we put all those positions in our initial budget documents for analysis. Upon meeting with departments and meeting with the mayor, we realized that a lot of those positions were not going to be accepted. So they had been put into what we call the 102 form, which is the personnel form. So upon learning that we were not going to recommend all of those positions, we went through and we fixed the 102 form and we took all those extra positions out. The 102 form is essentially correct, except a couple little calculation errors. Because it is a very large spreadsheet and sometimes the formulas broke, and it was my first time with this spreadsheet, so I do have to take accountability for that. But what happened was we did fix the 102 form. We made it correct, we represented just the people we were recommending, or the new positions that we were recommending in the mayor's budget. The formula broke between the 102 form and the expenditure summary form. So there were a number of miscalculations, and I think we dealt with it. Whatever you saw in those PowerPoint presentations was the correct number, because we adjusted it and we worked with the departments to ensure that it was correct. So a vast number of these adjustments were that calculation error, and I labeled it as such. Then there are a couple, something didn't sum correctly for community services. Those were the vast majority of it. And then there are other things where, for the police contract, when we were doing the mayor's budget, we were using a formula because we hadn't gotten the final numbers, the final labor contract hadn't been posted. So when it posted, we took the actual salary numbers and replaced the formula. So there was rounding, but it saved, it actually saved the city some appropriation. And so most of these errors overstated what the expenditures were. So when you make all of these adjustments, we ended up lowering the expenditures by $2.8 million, which I know is a large number, but that is what happened and that is the number. So then if you compare lowering the expenditures by 2.8 and lowering the revenues by 1.4, we have a delta of $1.4 million. So there is currently
Where the revenue is 1.4 million more than the expenditure.
That is correct.
Right, which is better than the reverse.
Yes, but I think it would be a different conversation if it had gone the other way. And then there was one adjustment. So there really were no adjustments in fees. The fees were to be exactly the same. And in the document, if you look at the FY26, those are the correct fees. However, the calculation was where it showed a difference year over year.
You're talking about the permits and fees.
Permits, license, and fees,
Okay,
yes.
yeah. And that's the bottom
Yes.
information here.
So there are only a few adjustments, and this was mainly because the health department is, they have a grant for tobacco and smoking product permits, and they're going to start collecting revenue for that. There's also a late penalty fee, and then I can't even remember my own thing, but it was basically they were adding a few services and they needed to charge for that. So it's very minor adjustments. There were 4 fees that didn't get recorded.
Reinspection is the last one.
Yes, so these are the major adjustments. The reason why I didn't email it to you first is because we are going through it with a fine-tooth comb, because like I said, I don't want to come back again with any more like, oh, by the way, we forgot this. We want to make sure it's comprehensive. So we will provide that detail to you probably tomorrow, but we want to make sure definitely before Thursday.
Yeah, the sooner the better.
Okay.
This is important new information for this committee to absorb.
Yes.
And we are literally just a few days from deliberation. So the sooner we have a definitive, fact-checked, triple verified set of numbers, the better off. Thank you.
Oh, there's one other. On the new positions, the new positions were correct as they showed in the budget. However, there were 2 positions, the resident service coordinators under community services. that it was determined that we could go after some grant funding for those positions, so we took those out of the general fund. Other than that, they're consistent.
And I believe we established and confirmed that the number is 13 in
Yes,
terms of new proposed general fund positions.
yes,
And those two were not part of the 13.
right, we took those out.
Okay. Great. Thank you for that explanation. We look forward to seeing this information in a format that's easier to
Yes.
view. This is a little bit hard given its small font. But the main takeaway is revenue down 1.4 million, but expenditures down 2.85,
Yes,
which means the result, the net position is that if we were to make just these corrections,
Mhm.
the budget would be 1.4 million in change in surplus.
yes.
Great, thank you for that information. Questions from colleagues about this information from the city? Questions from colleagues? Questions, rather. Alder Festa?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for clarification, when you mentioned I feel like, my grandmother, the days in the past, the fines for parking tags, you said that the department thought it was too robust, so they decreased it.
Right, well, they estimated that for each new position could bring in $118,000. That number was not adjusted for the fact that we took some of the positions out. So if you took 4 new positions times 118, it's a little bit above, but
Okay,
less.
because they have they have 3 positions in there
In the
for,
supervisor, yeah.
and a supervisor.
Yes,
But they actually had put in for more positions.
yes.
Took those out, that's why. Okay, thank you for that clarification. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Alder Festa, thank you. Further questions from colleagues? Alder Festa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a point of clarification. On our next meeting, Thursday, will we be going through this or with a little more detail?
So,
If so, then I'll save my questions for.
my intention is, well, look, if there's some change, significant change, then we'll have to consider having them come forward and answer questions. But if it's not, if it's basically the same information with maybe very tiny changes, then this is the chance to ask. Because our goal on Thursday, of course, is just to go straight into deliberation. But if there's some bigger change that we really need to hear about, then we'll adjust that. Hopefully, this is it.
Okay. Well, if I may just ask
Please.
a question, and it may be here. Might be somewhere here, I just can't see it.
Oh, sorry, you will have these on Thursday.
But my question is just in regards to the mayor's salary. Has that been increased
That,
through cost of living or?
no,
So when is the last time the mayor has had an increase in salary?
I don't recall. I haven't been, I can
Okay,
find that
so-
out easily. I can find
Yeah, so it seems like that's about due for at least a cost of living. Maybe that's something that we should deliberate on, Mr. Chair, so I don't want to be, speak before.
But I think your inquiry is worth
Yeah.
making, and I'm happy to
Yeah.
make that for me.
So through you, Mr. Chair, if we could find out that information, that might be helpful in our deliberations. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Further questions from colleagues about these recommended corrections, which we would make as part of the technical amendment on Thursday during our deliberations. It's something that the committee would have to put together, which will have all the information. Seeing none, thank you very much for that. And don't go anywhere,
No,
because you're also at the end of our agenda, but let's hear from the Board of Ed on our first voting item for this evening.
Thank you.
This is item 3, a contract between the Board of Education and Act2G Incorporated. Now, colleagues, we received a packet of information Some of you got it in green folders, some of you don't have the green folder, but it's the same presentation. It looks like this. Let's see if it has page numbers. Yes, that's wonderful. So we'll ask our presenters to make sure we're all on the same page, literally, when you go through your presentation. Names and addresses for the record.
Viviana Camacho, 19 Clifford Terrace, New Haven, Connecticut.
Eric Schools, 448 Fan Hill Road in Monroe, Connecticut.
Justin Harmon, excuse me, 50 Autumn Ridge Road in Guilford, Connecticut.
First and foremost, thank you for allowing us a moment of your time to consider this contract. So we went through an extensive process to choose, to select a new website, two-way communication. It is part of the strategic operating plan for the superintendent's vision and mission. When you look at the page number 2, it talks about the purpose of adopting a two-way communication. Currently, we use ParentLink, which is one way. Some of you are very familiar with good morning, there'll be no school today. That's about as good as the communication gets. It's just one way parents receive it, and they cannot communicate back and forth unless they call the office and get transferred to a teacher. Maybe the teacher's up in classes and it gets cumbersome. So we wanted to facilitate that process. We also wanted to enhance the multilingual roles of the populations that we serve. Apparently, it does not meet the needs of the entire district's multilingual needs. And we also wanted to streamline the virtual communication with websites, directories, newsletters, and social media, and move with the change of times, because that is where we're all going. We continue with purpose on, ParentLink is very outdated and probably will be phased out nationally. So we also wanted to be prepared for that shift. We wanted to enhance the digital security of our students' privacy, and we wanted to be fiscally responsible in getting a resource that better meets our budgetary needs. We incorporated the voice of many folks in our committee. So when you look at page number 4, you see that we have principals, assistant superintendents, transportation and student transfer supervisors, parent liaisons, webmasters, school community care coordinators, principals. We had actually 2 principals, a K-8 and a high school, because it's a little different when we look at that. And of course, our director of communications. Page number 5 talks about the strategic operating plan and how this strategy fits into the bigger picture of the entire district. Communication, we always can enhance and make better. And so this is something that we really took our time. It took us a whole year, starting with last summer, to look at it and really compare different ways. Our next page, did I skip page? I did, sorry. Skip page. This is a tracker that we've used for all of the strategies in the strategic operating plan for the superintendent's strategic operating plan. And this one talks about what the goal was, what steps we took, how the steps took forward, and the status of the tracking. As you can see, all of it except for the rollout and training has not started. This was done last week. This week we actually, or the week before, we did start the rollout conversation. So that's, we can update that one. Here's a timeline of everything that we've been able to do so far. We've gathered feedback from all of the administrators in the district. We looked at different platforms to vet. We held a tech fair where different vendors were able to show us, and students and parents and teachers were able to come and actually play with the different platforms. It was a pitch, but it was a platform for about 5 or 6 of them to come, and folks, the students actually were the best ones because they know tech better than I think all of us in this room. So it was kind of interesting to see them really ask very pointed questions about what the tech did, the speed and what they can do, if it was integrated with their schoolwork and homeworks and notifications. So here's the five platforms that we vetted. We looked at the state and nationwide trends, and these were the five that rose to the top. So these were the five that we invited to the tech fair. We had 147 students, teachers, parents, and other community members complete feedback forms. Again, like I said, they were interactive. We also did a thought exchange feedback where 352 responses were gained. The thought exchange feedback, I don't know if you've heard of what that is. It's a platform that we've used to just get feedback from the community in places where it's easier than just a survey of A/B. It adapts to your answer, and it starts creating with artificial intelligence a more direct feedback for us to understand what the community wants. These were the key thoughts that arose from the thought exchange. Privacy was ranked 1 out of 256 things or options that folks wanted to look at. Language translation was number 2. Communication platform for parents to use on their cell phone real time came up as 3. Access was a very big one. How accessible was it? Was it made for just any of the technology that we use? Apple, Google, iPad, Samsung, desktop, Mac, all of it. So they wanted something that was applicable to all. Did it do best messenger? So this is where the two-way communication is key. The platform we were looking at allows teachers and staff and students to actually text with each other in a safe way. Right now, if a teacher needs to communicate with a parent after hours, we don't recommend that, but should they have to, sometimes they create a Google free account or they use their personal numbers, and we do not recommend that at all. Just for the privacy of the teacher, the staff member, and for the privacy of the student. This is a way that the district could actually monitor communication venues and communications between teacher, parents, and staff members so that it's secure, safe, and we are on the same page. And texting. And one of the beauties of all of the apps, some of the apps did it, but this one specifically is that if I am, which I am, a native Spanish speaker, if I am texting, let's say President Marchard or Chairman Marchard, sorry, and his native language is English, he can text me in English and I can respond back in Spanish. He will receive those texts in English. I will receive his answers in Spanish. So there's no middle place of translating or getting a Google Translator, nothing like that. It is in real time as folks can communicate. And how many languages? Over 140, 150 languages. So this app really met the needs of the district. Page number 12 shows you what the app looks like. And instead of a platform, Aptgy is actually a New Haven Public School app. That app will include a website, newsletter, communication, directories, everything in one place. Right now, we piecemeal it. We pay right now for a final site, which is the website. We pay Hootsuite for social media. We also pay for postage and supplies. And then schools also pay for their own, like Parent Square or this. So all of that will be eliminated and we'll all just have one cost. So everything will be central in one place. Next page is an example. We actually did a little simulation of what I was explaining with the two-way communication. This is actually feedback, this is feedback from different districts that use Aptgy that may be like us. Middletown, Stratford, Windsor, and Wyndham use Aptgy. So we were asked by the board to look for feedback. Aptgy gave us a list. We actually took our own list and picked our own people to call so that it wasn't what they wanted us to hear. We actually did our little homework. And then in the bottom, those were links that showed actually that two-way communication, how it worked. And finally, this is what you really want to know. What's the bottom line? We're getting to, but I wanted to give you at least a background of what you were getting to the bottom line. So the bottom line is $136,826 a year if we went with a 1-year contract with an increase of 5% every year. Should you consider a 3-year contract, which is what we'd like to ask, it would be $123,887 each year. The savings of over, on a yearly basis, a savings of $13,539, or over a 3-year period, $40,617 of what we currently have allocated in our budget. So switching over not only will mainstream the website and the communication for the district, it'll also gain a savings in the long run. Any questions?
Thank you for that presentation.
You're welcome. Thank you for listening and bearing with me.
We're glad to listen, and now we'll open it up
Yes, for
for
questions.
questions from committee members.
Yes,
So the
thank
queue's
you.
open, starting with Alders and
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know that some people, parents especially, may not have a cell phone or a computer, but they don't use it in their home. So how will you do two-way communication help them, because you're not sending out mail through the mail?
We still will do that. It won't be as big. So when we do the rollout, we are going to have folks during orientation for parents choose. And if they don't have that, they'll still get a mailing.
Okay, perfect. I didn't want to leave those people out.
We never do. We never do.
I appreciate that.
Really good question.
thank you, Alder. Next on the queue is Alder Festa, and then the queue is open.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the presentation. Is there a cost savings going to just one platform? Because you mentioned in one of the slides that there's, different,
So yes,
What?
there is a cost savings. We would eliminate Final Site, which currently costs $137,000. We would eliminate Hootsuite, which costs currently $7,996.18. And we would reduce the postage and supplies by $5,000. So that would give us a total of, currently, if we stayed where we are, our current cost looking at 2025, 2026 was $145,388.18. So on the first year already, you will see a full savings. We're relocating funds, so we're not asking for more funds. We're actually using the funds that we currently use for that to transfer it, to reallocate it to Aptigee, and the savings, we'll have savings there.
Yeah, so it looks like if the 3-year contract is approved, it would be $123,887 per year, compared to the $145,388.18 per year.
And as a caveat, the $145,388, it's next year. That increases by 6% every year. So the following year, that contract, bless you, goes up to $154,031. And then year 3, it goes to $163,189.
Okay, so with the 6% increase per year, I mean, I'm just gonna go with the 145 for now, just to compare the 123,887, because that'll be for 3 years, and then you'll have to review it at that point.
And so we review it, and that's best practice to see if it's still the cutting edge and they still give us the good price. If not, then we look for alternatives also.
Then is there a way to monitor the usage? Does it collect data to monitor? Because the equipment is only as good as the end user. So if people aren't utilizing this to its full, not even to its full capacity, at least somewhat, that makes them comfortable, that needs to be reviewed as well.
So I believe, and Eric, I'll give it to you, but I believe that it does bring analytics with it so that we're able to see usage, how many folks visit the sites, how many folks use the interactive pieces. Eric, you may want to.
Yeah, there's a full suite of analytics that come with it for the app and all communications. Everything's actually archived as well for security and legal reasons. And it'll give you a full idea of who used it and how often.
And that information will go to the Board of Ed's Finance Department or?
The IT.
IT.
It can go wherever you like it to go, but it's
Well,
not,
just
it's
for-
not for the public, but it would.
Right,
be
I mean,
allocated.
that's why I'm asking, for privacy
Yes.
purposes, it's gonna go to one
Yeah.
Correct.
IT department.
Yes.
And from there, you can share charts and graphs with,
Yes.
and if you see that it's slow moving, will you do a presentation to parents again? I mean, there's PTOs, PTAs, there's SPMTs.
There's quite a bit, I'm sorry. There's quite a bit of training that comes with this apogee. So we plan on training not only the staff, but as many parents and guardians as possible.
Or the kids, so they can
And
show
kids,
their
yes.
parents.
And the
'Cause that'll probably,
Well, that kind of goes together, but yes, the kids,
Yeah.
we're hoping during our orientations that we can really put this out in front of everybody.
okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Alder Festa. Alder Panza.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Do parents have to register for this program? They do have to register. So, for example, if my household speaks only Italian, when messages are sent out from the Board of Ed, that'll automatically come in Italian. Okay. Good. And I think the rollout is very important.
So we have, I can talk a little bit about the rollout because the price includes the rollout, which is very important to us. The professional development opportunities are limitless. They did not give us a 1 or 2. So we are planning a rollout specifically designed for teachers, one specifically designed for principals and administrators, one specifically designed for students. We also plan on doing website workshops where the schools will come and bring a certain amount of information to start uploading the website so that we can go live simultaneously. So we've really thought about a lot, and Aptitude, the company, have really been very supportive in helping us develop that professional development plan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Alder Panza. Further questions from colleagues on this item? Further questions from colleagues? I have a question about the timing of it. I see that you would like us to approve a contract from April 8th, 2025 through June 30th, 2028. Is that correct? Okay. So that's already begun. And just to make a point, we don't like doing that. So, but maybe there was something that happened, this kind of came together last minute, or the other contract was expiring. How is it coming to us so
Well,
late in the game?
The April date, and I'll take full responsibility for it. This is my first rodeo doing this, because we don't have a COO, not that I'm blaming things, and I did the best I could. I put us on the wrong agenda, so I put the wrong date, so Madam Chair graciously allowed us to be here in front of you today to do it the right way. But Madam President, sorry, thank you. She allowed us, when I respectfully requested and told her of my oversight. So that's why the date is incorrect. If you need a memo for me to correct it, I'd be happy to. But we have not started the service with them at all until we are fully approved by the author. So that we have not done.
Okay. But you would still like us to approve a contract that has a start date of April 8th?
We can amend it to next week.
You want, so the other thing around timing is that it sounds like you want to move this quickly because you want them to get on the ground and have things up and running by July 1st. Is that correct?
Right, because we need to migrate the data. And so I was also going to respectfully request to, I don't know if I'm saying this correctly, discharge the contract so that we can move it forward
That's a
quickly.
process we use to move things quicker. It's the usual first and second reading. Okay. All right, so thank you for that, and I understand your answer. I think you got the point that we like to approve things
Absolutely.
before they start.
Oh, no, absolutely.
Rather than after they.
Absolutely.
All right. Further questions from colleagues? Seeing none, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Well, hold on a second. No, you may be.
I want to step back down.
I just realized that one of my statements at the very beginning of our meeting was not 100% correct. This is a public hearing item, since it's a voting item. So is there a member of the public, you may be seated.
Oh,
Is
thank
there a
you
member of
again.
the public who wishes to testify on this item, the proposed contract between the Board of Education and Aptity Incorporated? Is there a member of the public who wishes to testify on this item? And for a third time, is there a member of the public who wishes to testify on this item? Seeing none, we're going to move on to our last two items, which are the monthly financial reports for the months of February and March 2025. And that would be our directors of management, budget, and grant. Good evening, welcome back.
Thank you.
Names and addresses for the record.
Shannon McHugh, 295 Roanoke Road, Waterbury, Connecticut.
Ron Gizmo, 219 Arundel Terrace, Hampton.
So most likely, we're talking about the March monthly at this stage.
Yes.
What would you like to tell us about it?
As of March, we were projecting about a $1.6 million deficit. And part of that deficit, I can go through. So on the expenditure side, we were looking at expenditures being over budget, at least projected to be over budget by $7 million. And the biggest reasons for that is the fire department is above budget. And we do estimates, we do a monthly estimates, and we keep them up to date. And a lot of that was driven, by overtime. And so that is coming in above budget. Public safety is also coming in a little bit above budget, and it's mainly because of attrition and the need to make sure that positions are fully staffed. So there was a little bit of pressure there. And then there were some small shortfalls under self-insurance is about $550,000. Well, not so small, but $550,000. And so that got us, that was about almost a $2 million deficit. But then the school district at that point in time was projecting a $4.9 million deficit. I did talk to them today. They are thinking it's going to, their new estimate is a little bit better, where they're looking at a 4.2 now versus a 4.9. So all in, as of March, that was about $7 million. But our revenues are doing, we have some positive variances in our revenues, including a little bit of property taxes above budget based on our estimates. And then other license permits and fees were up about $2.3 million, 3.4 essentially. Mainly from building permits. Building permits are doing quite well. We expect that to continue, which is why we increased the budget for FY 2026. So they are beating those estimates. And then investment income is up about $1.2 million because of one of the controllers being very aggressive about where she is putting funds, including the ARPA funds, and putting a lot of funds in the STIP, so it makes a return greater than inflation. And plus the estimates were pretty conservative. Well, I think they were conservatively estimated. So we're looking at a $1.2 million increase in income, and then also investment income, and then miscellaneous revenues were up about $84,000. State grants for education came in $238,000 above budget, and state grants and pilots came in about $607,000 above budget. So based on the monthly report for March, we were looking at a $1.6 million deficit in the general fund. I like to be a little forward-looking because March seems far away. So we haven't published the April yet, but I do think that we're going to be a lot better in April. I think it'll be closer to $1 million. Part of it is because revenues are still doing well, and the Board of Education brought their estimate down. And then we did, as you know, we did assign $3 million in fund balance, knowing that there could be a deficit by year end. So we're keeping a close eye on it. And we don't believe we're going to use all 3 million that we had assigned, but there is a good likelihood that we may use some of that.
Wonderful. Is that all the information you want to share at this point?
That's essentially it. We're working on the April and we'll have that out soon. So.
Look forward to seeing that. Questions from colleagues about the monthly financial reports? Questions from colleagues about these monthly reports? Questions from colleagues? Alders, that's it.
Hey, Mr. Chair, it's not really a question, it's just, we got so used to in the past having a budget book in front of us, like a little monthly, remember our financial report?
Paper copy.
Oh,
Yeah.
sure, I can bring that.
And my writing is not as fast as the speaking, so I'm a visual person, so I don't know, maybe through you, Mr. Chair, we could either not necessarily have to go back to that, but have something that we can follow.
Alder Festa, are you referring to the practice of Mr. Gormany? He would come with like photocopies of 2 or 3 key pages
Yes.
of the things he wanted to go over with us?
Yeah.
And you would like maybe to suggest that his successor consider doing the same thing?
Please,
Yes.
I'm a visual person,
That
so it
seems like a
would be
reasonable
very
suggestion.
helpful.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Further questions from colleagues on the monthly financial reports? Seeing none, thank you very much for your presentation this evening.
Thank you.
Is there a member of the public who wishes to testify on these 2 monthly financial reports? Is there a member of the public who wishes to testify on these financial reports? And for a third time, is there a member of the public who wishes to testify on these financial reports? Seeing none, Alder DeCola.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that we close the public portion of this meeting.
Second.
The motion's been made to close the public portion. It's been seconded. Any discussion of that motion? Seeing none, all in favor of closing the public portion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
The motion
I
passes.
did it again.
The motion passes. Did you want to vote nay on that? Okay.
No,
So we'll take that as a unanimous yes
Yes.
to close the public portion. We'll now move forward with deliberations on our voting items. My sense is that it does make sense to move quickly on the apt-to-G item. So unless there's an objection, my plan will be to request that the president list that as a discharge item in our next full board meeting. And given that, there's no need for a motion on that item. But, Alder DeCola.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I like to move item 4 and 5 as a read and file.
Second.
Motion's been made to recommend that these items be read and filed. Any discussion of the motion? We're recommending that items 4 and 5 be read and filed. Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. The motion carries. We will recommend these items be read and filed. So that's the end of our voting items. I would just want to remind colleagues before we conclude that our deliberations are on Thursday. I have heard from some members of the committee about plans for amendments. I recognize that we received new information this evening that we didn't have before today. That may change what some folks are thinking in terms of amendments. And so folks who are interested in doing that should be in touch with me as soon as possible, because we want to be able to be coordinated and efficient in our deliberations on Thursday, which will be at 6 p.m. here in Chambers. I will work with the city staff to make sure of 2 things. One, that we get as soon as possible the double, triple check, readable summary of the listing of changes that the administration is recommending, which would have to be moved as a technical amendment on Thursday. I will also make sure that we can follow up on any outstanding questions that came up during our workshops for department heads. So having said all that, Alder DeCola.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Motion to adjourn has been made in second. Any discussion of that motion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The motion carries. We are adjourned.
I just want to tell you guys, I just came back from Hawaii.